She inherited 2,000 meters of rusty fence, then discovered a $120 million military bunker. No one claimed. In the heart of rural Indiana, where the sunsets cast long shadows over forgotten fields, Claire Whitaker stood at the edge of her inheritance, a sprawling, rusted fence that once marked the boundaries of a long-abandoned estate. A quizzical frown creased her brow as she traced the jagged metal with her fingers. Memories of childhood summers spent chasing fireflies overshadowed by the weight of neglect. Alone and burdened by the legacy of a distant relative, Claire felt a paradoxical pull between obligation and opportunity. Little did she know, buried beneath the earth's embrace, lay secrets long forgotten, a military bunker, entombed for decades, its value waiting to be unearthed. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth, each drop a promise, whispering of fortunes hidden below. As she took a breath, determination ignited within her, setting the stage for a journey that would forever alter the landscape of her life. The rain fell lightly, creating a rhythmic patter against the rusted fence, and Claire stood alone amidst the decaying remnants of the estate. Each droplet seemed to resonate with an echo of the past, reminding her of endless summers, laughter, and the whispers of wind through the trees. Yet now, the air was thick with uncertainty and the metallic scent of rust. As she carefully stepped closer to the corroded gate, an uneasy thrill coursed through her veins. The thought of what lay beneath, an unexplored world of secrets, sent shivers down her spine, igniting a blend of fear and exhilaration she couldn't quite comprehend. Her gut instinct urged her forward, and she knelt beside a section of the dilapidated fence where the earth was disturbed. The soil shifted as if something was trying to break free from below. Heart racing, Claire brushed her fingers against the cool, damp ground, feeling an inexplicable connection to the place. Was it foolish to consider the possibility that hidden within the earth was something of monumental worth? The idea danced tantalizingly in her mind, igniting a flicker of hope amid her mounting doubts. The notion that this rusting relic could lead her to a life-changing discovery overwhelmed her senses. Determined to uncover the truth, Claire began to plot her next steps. The estate's numerous overgrown paths and tangled underbrush beckoned her to explore deeper, but time felt like an enemy in that moment, whispering of the potential loss of opportunity. As she pulled out her phone to check the dimming daylight, the chill in the air became more profound. Shadows crept closer, and mingling with them was an undeniable sense of urgency. Something needed to be done, and it was up to her alone to unveil the layers of history buried beneath the landscape. The image of her distant relative flashed through her mind, a figure shrouded in mystery. What had led them to acquire this land? Had they known of the secrets beneath? Questions swirled like the autumn leaves caught in the wind, leaving her feeling adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The weight of expectation rested heavily on her shoulders, and yet the allure of possibility ignited a fire within, pushing her onward. As she ventured further, guided by instinct and a burgeoning sense of purpose, the crumbling estate transformed from a burden into a canvas for her ambitions. With each step, Claire sank deeper into the world of her ancestors, feeling the partition between past and present dissolve. The landscape transformed, revealing glimpses of what once was, overgrown gardens, forgotten pathways, and hints of a life previously vibrant, now muted by time. As she rounded the corner of the fence line, an unexpected shape caught her eye. A half-buried hatch, its edges worn but unmistakable. The sight sent a jolt of electricity through her, awakening a sense of adventure she thought had long faded. Her heart raced as she knelt beside it, the promise of discovery unfolding before her. This wasn't just a rusty fence. It was a doorway to a past she was only beginning to understand. Claire's fingers grazed the cold metal of the hatch, the texture sending shivers up her spine. She took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and the sweet decay of fallen leaves. It was as if the estate itself were holding its breath, waiting for her next move. The urge to pry it open was overwhelming. She could almost hear the whispers of those who had come before her, their secrets trapped within. Every fiber of her being yearned for connection, to unearth tales long buried beneath layers of neglect and memory. As she worked at the latch, her mind reeled with possibilities. What had her ancestors hidden away? Bundles of letters? Treasures of lost love? Or perhaps something darker, a family secret that had festered over generations. Each click of the rusted metal seemed to echo through time, amplifying her heartbeat. The world outside faded, leaving just her and the hatch, a portal waiting for the touch of her curiosity. In this moment, she felt a spark of purpose, a chance to reclaim her lineage and reshape her own narrative. With a final, determined twist, the hatch creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into shadow. The air wafting up was cool and musty, an invitation wrapped in mystery. Claire hesitated, the weight of anticipation pressing heavily on her chest. Did she dare venture into the darkness? A flicker of doubt crept in, whispering of dangers lurking below, but the thrill of the unknown eclipsed her fear. She stepped forward, each footfall an act of defiance against the ghosts of her family, a proclamation that she would not shy away from her inheritance. As she descended, the light faded, swallowed by the stone walls that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of their own. Shadows danced around her like forgotten memories, taunting her with glimpses of what might lie ahead. With every step, Claire felt herself shedding the remnants of uncertainty, embracing the resolve that had brought her to this moment. Here, in this subterranean vault of her history, she sought not just the past, but the very essence of herself, woven into the fabric of this estate. At the bottom, she found herself in a small chamber dimly illuminated by the faint glimmer of dust motes swirling in the air. The walls were adorned with fragments of peeling wallpaper, the patterns barely discernible, yet fading into a melancholic beauty. Centered in the room was a weathered trunk, its brass fittings tarnished but still dignified. Claire approached, heart racing as she knelt before it, thoughts swirling with excitement and trepidation. Whatever lay within this trunk held the potential to transform her understanding of family, identity, and ultimately, her own destiny. As Claire knelt before the trunk, her breath quickened, each heartbeat resonating in the stillness of the chamber. She hesitated, her fingers trembling as they traced the contours of the weathered wood, the surface marred by the passage of time. Moments slipped away, lost in the cavernous quiet, until she mustered the courage to lift the heavy lid. The hinges creaked, unleashing a musty scent that enveloped her. Inside lay a collection of faded letters tied with fraying string, their yellowed edges whispering untold secrets, alongside an intricately designed key, glinting faintly as if beckoning her to uncover more. With a trembling hand, Claire gently unwrapped the letters, her eyes scanning the elegant cursive that danced across the pages. Each word seemed to carry the weight of generations, revealing fragments of her family's past, tales of hardship, passion, and unresolved conflicts. Faces of ancestors, once strangers, now began to take shape in her mind. The pieces of a puzzle she had never known were slowly aligning, igniting a fierce longing within her to connect the dots, to dig deeper into the lineage that had shaped her existence, yet remained a mystery until now. The final letter, however, sent a shiver up her spine. It hinted at a hidden inheritance, an expansive plot of land, enclosed by a rusted fence stretching 2,000 meters, a border that felt like a physical manifestation of all that had been left unsaid within her family. Claire's heart thundered as she envisioned the terrain, a place untouched by time, holding the echoes of her ancestors' footsteps. There was an undeniable call to explore this legacy, to traverse the boundary that separated her from the roots she yearned to understand, and perhaps find the answers to questions she hadn't yet dared to voice. With a newfound resolve, Claire carefully tucked the letters and the key into her satchel, feeling their weight both comforting and daunting. The vault, once a sanctuary of secrets, now felt like a launch pad for her journey into the unknown. Climbing back through the shadows, the air thick with possibility, she couldn't shake the sensation that this inheritance was designed not merely to be received, but to be earned, an invitation to grapple with her heritage and emerge transformed. Claire ascended the staircase, her mind swirling with visions of the land, its rusted fence a symbol of the barriers she would face. Stepping out into the daylight, Claire was briefly blinded by the brilliance of the sun, the warmth contrasting starkly with the coolness she had just left behind. She paused, taking in the sprawling estate, the faded grandeur now taking on a new significance. A plot of land she had never known, but now felt inexplicably drawn to. With each breath, She could almost hear the echoes of voices past urging her to journey forth, to claim her inheritance, not merely of land, but of legacy and identity. There, beneath the shadow of the rusted fence, awaited the promise of discovery, a chance to reclaim her story and weave it with her own. Claire stood at the edge of the estate, her heart a cacophony of hope and trepidation. The air, thick with the scent of wildflowers and earth, pulled her deeper into the domain that was now hers. She traced her fingers along the rough bark of an ancient oak, its gnarled branches casting intricate shadows on the ground. Memories of laughter and family gatherings whispered around her, fragments caught in the wind. Yet, a lingering doubt clung to her. What if the weight of this inheritance was more than she could bear? What lay hidden beneath the surface of this idyllic facade? With each step further into the grounds, she discovered remnants of life long past. Crumbling statues stood sentinel amidst overgrown gardens, their once proud forms now cloaked in ivy. A shiver ran down her spine as she noticed an inscription on the base of one, the initials barely legible, worn by time. She knelt to read it, her heartbeat quickening. This was her history, yet it felt like an enigma, a puzzle begging for resolution. She felt a pull, an urging from the universe that whispered of connections yet to be made, stories waiting to be unveiled. The expansive horizon opened before her, a wild tapestry of potential. Sunlight danced upon the grass, but shadows lingered at the edges, reminding her of the family secrets she had inherited. What had they been? Shrouded in silence, they beckoned to her, tantalizing yet forbidding. Each thought twisted inside her mind, spiraling into a vortex of longing and determination. The estate, once a mere obligation, transformed into a canvas where she could paint her own narrative, but the fear of the unknown loomed large, threatening to unravel the threads of her resolve. As she wandered toward the dilapidated barn at the far side of the property, the air changed. The wind whispered secrets through the cracks in the wood, hushed but insistent. She paused before the heavy doors, their hinges rusted and creaking with age. Memories of her mother's stories flickered like the dim light behind her eyes, a warning, perhaps, of the burdens they bore. With trembling hands, Claire pushed the doors open, revealing a darkened space cloaked in dust and shadows, hinting at the treasures and trials that awaited her within. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged timber and forgotten dreams. A beam of light broke through the grimy windows, illuminating a solitary trunk in the corner. Claire's pulse quickened as she approached, heart pounding with anticipation. What lay inside could hold the key to understanding her family's past, or it might unravel her own. She reached for the latch, a gesture both inviting and foreboding, and in that moment she felt the weight of generations pressing down upon her. This was not merely a quest for possessions. It was a confrontation with the legacy she had been thrust into, and she was determined to face whatever awaited her. The trunk loomed larger as Claire stepped closer, the dust swirling around her like ghostly whispers of the past. She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the latch, heavy with uncertainty. The inheritance felt less like a precious gift, and more like a shackle pulling her down into secrets she was not ready to uncover. Why had her estranged uncle chosen her? A chill danced down her spine as she wondered if it was a curse disguised as a blessing. The memories of their fractured relationship swirled through her mind, each recollection sharper than the last, leaving her questioning her own worthiness. With a swift motion, she unclasped the latch and lifted the lid. A musty aroma spilled forth, carrying hints of leather and paper, enveloping her senses. Inside, the trunk brimmed with a chaotic assortment of items, yellowed letters tied with fraying string, dusty photographs depicting faces she barely recognized, and peculiar trinkets that seemed to murmur tales of love and loss. Each object appeared weighed down by unresolved histories, as if they had waited all this time for someone to unearth their stories. She felt an overwhelming urge to sift through them, yet apprehension held her back, tightening her throat. Claire's mind spiraled into a whirlpool of confusion as she contemplated the implications of her discovery. Selling it all off quickly became a tempting thought, a means to escape the emotional mire that threatened to engulf her. Yet, deep down, part of her yearned for connection, an understanding of the family she had distanced herself from. Each item in that trunk was a thread leading back to roots buried beneath layers of neglect and pain. Could she really sever those ties so easily, as if they were just another transaction in a life already burdened with loss? The light shifted, casting shadows that danced around the room, mirroring the turmoil within her. Claire leaned against the trunk, feeling the cool wood press into her palms, grounding her in that moment. She closed her eyes, drawing in a deep breath that tasted of nostalgia and regret. Every heartbeat echoed with the weight of her choices, as the thought of abandoning this inheritance gnawed at her conscience. What if she sold it all and discovered later that she had forsaken something irreplaceable? The stakes felt too high, the cost of her detachment too great. Suddenly, the letters caught her attention. She picked one up, the delicate paper crinkling beneath her fingers. As she unfolded it cautiously, her heart raced with anticipation. The familiar script belonged to her uncle, yet the words felt foreign, imbued with an urgency that pierced through her doubts. "To those who seek," it began, each word resonating like a bell tolling through the silence, stirring a mixture of trepidation and hope within her. In that instant, Claire understood that this journey was not merely about inheritance. It was a chance to reclaim herself, to piece together the fragments of her family's history, one letter at a time. The letter trembled in Claire's hand, the ink almost shimmering under the soft light streaming through the dusty window. She took a deep breath, the familiar scent of aged paper mingling with the mustiness of the attic, anchoring her to the present moment. As she read, the urgency in her uncle's words ignited a flicker of resolve within her. "Seek the truth," he urged, "for only then will you uncover not just what was left behind, but who you truly are." A swell of emotions crashed over her, fear, excitement, and an undeniable pull toward a past she thought she had left behind. With each line, Claire felt as though she were drawing closer to something essential, something that had eluded her through years of self-imposed exile. Memories flooded her mind, family gatherings filled with laughter, stories spun around the warmth of a fireplace, her uncle's laughter echoing against the walls. What had she sacrificed in her pursuit of independence? The ache of loss was palpable, intertwining with the hope that this journey might lead her back to herself. She set the letter down, her resolve solidifying like concrete. She would unearth these secrets. The attic was a treasure trove, each corner brimming with remnants of the past, but now her focus was laser-sharp. Claire opened a box labeled Memories, its brittle edges giving way to a trove of forgotten photographs and dusty knickknacks. As she sifted through the items, a small, ornate key slipped from between the pages of a yellowed book, clattering against the wooden floor. It sparkled under the dim light, seemingly beckoning her to follow yet another thread of the mystery. She picked it up, the cool metal sending a shiver through her fingertips, and wondered what it might unlock. Determined, Claire scanned the attic, searching for a lock that matched the key's delicate silhouette. Her heart raced as she imagined hidden compartments filled with family secrets, treasures that could bridge the chasm between her past and present. She turned her attention to a small, intricately carved chest nestled in the shadows, its surface marred by time yet still arresting. The chest whispered to her, promising not just artifacts of nostalgia, but perhaps revelations that could reshape her understanding of her family's legacy. With trembling hands, she approached, the key clutched tightly in her palm. As she inserted the key and turned it, the mechanism clicked open, releasing a sigh of air laden with decades of memories. Inside, she found letters, photographs, and a faded journal, a tapestry woven from the threads of her family's existence. Each piece was a potential revelation, a bridge between generations. Clutching the journal, Claire felt a surge of determination. This was her moment. She could reclaim her roots, navigate the labyrinth of her lineage, and perhaps in the process, discover who she was meant to be. The adventure had only just begun, and she was ready to step into the unfolding narrative of her life. With the journal tucked securely under her arm, Claire stepped outside, her heart pounding. The estate sprawled toward the horizon, golden grasses swaying gently in the afternoon breeze, but her eyes were drawn to the fenced boundary that separated her from the unknown. A weighty sense of anticipation pressed against her chest. She needed to explore beyond the familiar confines to unearth whatever secrets lay hidden just out of reach. The markings she had noticed earlier tugged at her curiosity, their irregular patterns etched into the earth like a cryptic language waiting to be deciphered. As she approached the low, weathered fence, Claire felt an electric thrill dance along her spine. The markings appeared even more pronounced in the sunlight, their shapes shifting in her mind like fragments of a dream. She knelt down, her fingers brushing against the cool earth, tracing the lines as if they could whisper their secrets. Memories of her childhood flooded back, her grandfather's stories about their ancestors and the land that had shaped them. Each tale had been imbued with mystery, but here, she sensed something deeper, a connection that tied her to something vast and timeless. The more she studied the ground, the more questions crystallized in her mind. Who had made these marks? Were they remnants of a forgotten history, or perhaps symbols of a ritual long abandoned? As she lost herself in thought, the journal felt heavy in her grasp, urging her to seek the answers she had already begun to uncover. Claire couldn't shake the feeling that this land, with its odd etchings, held secrets that could redefine her understanding of her family's legacy. The past loomed just beyond the fence, waiting for her to take the first step. With a delicate determination, Claire stood, brushing dirt from her knees. She leaned closer to the fence, her heart racing as she contemplated the leap into the unknown. The sunlight glinted off the metal latch, a barrier between her and whatever secrets lay hidden beyond. She could almost hear the land whispering, calling her to push forward. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself. This was more than mere curiosity. This was a pilgrimage towards understanding herself, a chance to reconnect with those who had come before. Finally, with resolve burning in her chest, Claire unlatched the fence and stepped through. The air felt charged with possibility, the palpable tension of discovery hanging thick around her. Each step on the unmarked terrain ignited her anticipation, the world outside her family's estate opening like a door to a long-forgotten room. The markings seemed to pulse beneath her feet, urging her onward. As she wandered deeper, Claire was acutely aware that she was not just uncovering her family's story, but also writing her own. Here, in the embrace of mystery and legacy, she began to see the outlines of a new narrative form. The silence enveloped Claire, broken only by the whisper of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Every rustle seemed to echo the unspoken words of those who had walked this ground before her. She recalled snippets of conversations she'd overheard at family gatherings, laughter tinged with scandal, hushed tones that revealed secrets too sacred to share. With each footfall, the stories of her ancestors began to weave themselves into the very fabric of her being. They were not merely the past, they were the pulse of her present, urging her to dig deeper and uncover the truth hidden within their legacy. As shadows stretched across the terrain, Claire stumbled upon a dilapidated gazebo, its once vibrant colors now muted by time and neglect. She paused, the sight igniting a flicker of recognition. Her grandmother had spoken fondly of evenings spent here, telling stories under the starlit sky. Yet Claire remembered the whispers that surrounded the structure, tales of heartbreak and betrayal woven into the gazebo's very bones. Standing there, she could almost hear the laughter morph into cries, the joy transforming into sorrow. It was a reminder that every family carried their burdens, and perhaps she was meant to carry hers with grace. Determined to find the truth that lay buried, Claire approached the gazebo's crumbling steps. Dust danced in the air as she brushed her fingertips along the splintered wood, absorbing the emotions trapped within its decay. The sensation ignited something deep within her, a longing to unveil the layers of her family's narrative. Would she find closure, or merely more questions? With each heartbeat, the stakes increased, the stakes tethered to her very identity. The weight of expectation bore down on her, yet it also propelled her forward, urging her to remain undaunted in the face of uncertainty. A sudden flutter of movement caught her eye, and Claire turned, heart racing as the distant sound of voices spilled into the air. She recognized familiar tones, fragments of her childhood woven into the fabric of the local rumor mill. They spoke of the estate, of Claire's family, the secrets and scandals that had become the town's favorite pastime. The very whispers she had tried to escape now swirled around her like a tempest, feeding her curiosity while stirring a storm of anxiety. Eavesdropping felt both exhilarating and invasive, but the urge to understand her place in this tale became an irresistible force. With her heart pounding, Claire edged closer to the source of the voices. The realization hit her that no matter how much she sought the truth, The stories she uncovered would inevitably intertwine with those told by others. The past was never solitary. It was a tapestry woven from myriad perspectives. As the conversations faded into the distance, she understood that the legacy she was chasing would be shaped not just by her discoveries, but also by the very people who had crafted her family's mythology. Each layer revealed would force her to confront her own narrative, a dance of shadows and light, eternally evolving as she stepped into the unknown. Claire's footsteps echoed softly against the cobblestone streets of the nearby town, each step pulling her deeper into a world where the air buzzed with untold stories. Sunlight filtered through the branches of ancient oaks, dappling the ground with shadows that flickered like memories. She paused at a quaint cafe, its weathered sign swaying gently in the breeze. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet aroma of pastries, drawing her inside. As she settled at a corner table, Claire couldn't escape the feeling that she was an intruder in a world woven with secrets, her heart eagerly racing toward the tales waiting to unfold. Whispers floated from the group seated nearby, a mixture of laughter and hushed tones that swirled around her like smoke. Eavesdropping felt both thrilling and invasive, but she found herself enchanted by snippets of conversations, fragments of lore that spoke of the land's previous owner. A woman with fiery red hair, they said, had ruled the estate with an iron fist, her spirit still lingering among the wildflowers that blanketed the hills. Claire leaned forward, her pulse quickening as each word sank deeper into her consciousness, urging her to piece together the fragments of a puzzle that felt inexplicably tied to her own lineage. As the stories unfolded like petals in bloom, Claire's imagination ignited with images of hidden treasures buried beneath layers of earth, waiting for someone brave enough to seek them out. The thought of unearthed secrets stirred a longing within her, both thrilling and terrifying. What remnants of her ancestors lingered in the soil, and what clues might lead her to them? The murmurs about the hidden vaults and clandestine meetings left her breathless, and she could almost feel her fingers brushing against the cool metal of a treasure chest, the weight of history resting heavily on her shoulders. With a newfound determination, Claire's eyes darted from face to face in the cafe, searching for any acknowledgement of the tales she had just absorbed. An elderly man caught her gaze, his weathered features lined with stories of his own. He noticed her intensity and offered a slight nod, as if inviting her into the fold of the legends. Gathering her courage, she approached him, her voice trembling slightly as she dared to ask about the woman of the past, the feared matriarch who had once commanded the land. Each answer he provided was laced with caution, yet it formed a thread that tightened around Claire, intertwining her destiny with the echoes of a bygone era. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the town, Claire felt a shift deep within her. The weight of the stories she had absorbed no longer felt overwhelming. Instead, they began to resonate, harmonizing with her own quest for identity. She was no longer just a spectator in this narrative, but an active participant in the unfolding drama of her ancestry. Returning to the estate would be both a challenge and a revelation, a journey toward unveiling the hidden layers of her family's past. With each heartbeat, she felt the allure of discovery, a whisper promising that treasures, both tangible and emotional, awaited her in the shadows of history. The old estate loomed ahead, its silhouette softened by the caressing hues of twilight. Claire's heart raced as she crossed the threshold, the scent of aged wood and dust enveloping her like a forgotten embrace. Each creak of the floorboards echoed memories, whispering secrets from rooms long abandoned. She paused, absorbing the silence that filled the air, pregnant with unspoken stories. A flicker of warmth ignited within her, urging her to unlock the doors of her family's history, to confront the echoes that had shadowed her for so long. She was ready to dive into the depths of her lineage, to unearth truths buried beneath layers of neglect. As she wandered through the dimly lit corridors, Claire's fingers brushed against faded photographs that lined the walls. Faces from decades past stared back at her, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and sorrow. Among them, a woman with striking features caught her attention, a mirror of her own. Claire felt a jolt of recognition, a connection that transcended time. Who was this woman? A grandmother, perhaps, or a distant aunt? The questions swirled within her like a storm, and she vowed to piece together the fragmented tales that twined around her bloodline. One photograph in particular promised to guide her deeper into the heart of her family's narrative. In the library, dust motes danced in the sunlight filtering through the tall windows. Claire approached the massive oak desk, its surface covered with artifacts from the past. A leather-bound journal lay open, the pages yellowed and fragile. Her breath hitched as she read the elegant script, tracing the lines that spoke of love, loss, and betrayal. The words flowed like a river, pulling her into the tumultuous waters of a forgotten romance. Each penned sentiment throbbed with emotion, revealing the depths of human experience that felt strangely familiar. This was not merely a record of her ancestors. It was a mirror reflecting her own journey of self-discovery. As the evening deepened, shadows stretched across the room, and Claire felt a stirring in her chest, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. The stories she had uncovered ignited a fierce resolve. They were not just relics of history. They were threads that wove her identity. She sensed the presence of those who had come before her, urging her to delve deeper, to confront the unspoken truths that lingered beneath the surface. What had they sacrificed? What burdens had they carried? Claire's pulse quickened, for she understood that to unearth the past was to confront her own fears, to embrace the legacy intertwined with her existence. With newfound determination, she made her way to the attic, a realm shrouded in mystery and dust. Each step felt heavy with purpose, the air thickened with anticipation. Among the forgotten trunks and cobwebs, Claire's fingers brushed against something cool and metallic, a key. It gleamed in the fading light, promising access to hidden doors and long-shuttered memories. This was a catalyst, a symbol of her journey, urging her to unlock not just the physical barriers of her lineage, but the emotional chains that bound her. With the key clutched tightly in her hand, she took a deep breath, ready to confront the echoes of her past and embrace the myriad possibilities that lay ahead. The attic was a labyrinth of shadows and whispers, each step unveiling layers of dust that danced in the dim light filtering through grimy windows. As Claire knelt beside an ancient trunk, the cool metal of the key felt like a heartbeat against her palm. She hesitated, the weight of her uncle's hidden past pressing upon her like the musty air around her. With a purposeful twist, she inserted the key into the lock. The mechanism surrendered with a reluctant creak, revealing brittle papers and photographs that hadn't seen the light of day for decades. Her heart raced as she rifled through the contents, eager to piece together the fragments of a life once lived. Among the faded snapshots was an image of her uncle in military garb, standing confidently in front of an imposing aircraft. The uniform seemed to shimmer with untold stories, hinting at adventure and danger. As Claire examined the photograph, a knot of anxiety coiled in her stomach. What had compelled him to serve? What secrets had he buried beneath the surface of his jovial facade? Each question echoed in her mind, intertwining with her own sense of identity, urging her to venture deeper into the labyrinth of his history. She shifted her attention to the fragile papers, their edges yellowed and frayed. A series of official documents caught her eye, their text revealing connections to clandestine operations. Her pulse quickened as she scanned the words, recognizing terms like classified, reconnaissance, and protocol. The excitement was intoxicating, propelling her forward into a world she had only glimpsed in movies or read about in novels. With each revelation, Claire felt the tapestry of her family's story expanding, intertwining with the shadows of her own existence. What had her uncle been a part of? Would these discoveries deepen her understanding or shatter the image she held of him? The last document, a crumpled letter, contained a name that sent chills down her spine, a project code that had circulated among secretive circles. Her fingers trembled as she read the name, the implications intertwining with the unease that had taken root within her. It was a connection that promised danger, but she sensed that it also offered answers, a path to reclaiming her lineage. Each revelation solidified her resolve, a flicker of bravery igniting within her as she confronted the depth of her uncle's life and her own fears about what lay hidden in the shadows. Claire tucked the letter carefully into her pocket, a talisman of sorts, and stood up, the attic's mustiness fading behind her as she descended the stairs. The air grew lighter as she reached the ground floor, yet her heart thudded with the weight of the revelations. She realized that this was just the beginning. The threads of her uncle's past weaved into her own, drawing her inexorably into a narrative of intrigue, legacy, and perhaps redemption. With each step into the living room, she felt the world around her shimmer with possibilities, the mysterious legacy of her uncle beckoning her to continue unearthing the truth. Claire stepped into the softly lit living room, the familiar furnishings now cloaked in a fresh layer of mystery. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets she had yet to uncover. The letter nestled securely in her pocket felt like a weight and a compass simultaneously, guiding her toward the truth. A soft rustle from the corner of the room caught her attention, and she turned, heart racing, as a figure emerged from the dimness. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, who had often shared tidbits about the neighborhood's history. Today, however, she seemed strangely hesitant, her eyes flitting with unspoken words. "Claire," Mrs. Hargrove began, her voice low and trembling, "I saw you in the attic earlier." The old woman's gaze flickered between the doorway and Claire, as if gauging the safety of the conversation. Claire felt a rush of unease. The attic, with all its dust and forgotten relics, had held layers of her uncle's life, and now Mrs. Hargrove's presence felt like a disruption in the air. "There are things about your uncle that you may not know," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Some things are better left buried." The urgency of Mrs. Hargrove's tone tugged at Claire, igniting a spark of defiance within her. "Why would I leave them buried?" she countered, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. It was a direct challenge, a declaration of intent that echoed off the walls. The older woman hesitated, her fingers curling around the edge of a worn armchair as she held Claire's gaze. Claire felt a mix of determination and trepidation, the pull of family ties battling against the shroud of secrecy that seemed to envelop her uncle's past. Mrs. Hargrove sighed, the weight of her memories flooding her expression. "Your uncle was involved in things, dangerous things," she confessed, her voice trembling. The fear in her eyes mirrored the shadows gathering in Claire's own heart. "He had a friend, a stranger really, who came by often, a man with a past that could weave into yours if you're not careful." The words dripped with a foreboding sense of peril, yet Claire felt an irresistible intrigue blossom within her. The notion of a mysterious figure lurking in her uncle's life left her breathless with resolve. Determined, Claire took a step closer, the distance between them shrinking as she drew strength from her newfound purpose. "Tell me everything you know," she insisted, her mind racing with the implications of such a connection. Mrs. Hargrove looked nearly pained, torn between the urge to protect Claire and an obligation to reveal the truth. As Claire held her breath waiting for the older woman to respond, the atmosphere shifted, the air thick with anticipation, the echoes of the past intertwining with the present. In that moment of silence, the world outside faded away, leaving only the promise of revelations yet to come. Claire's heart raced as Mrs. Hargrove's gaze faltered. The weight of centuries seemed to settle heavily upon them, an unseen shroud woven from the land's secrets and the lives once lived upon it. "There's a man," Mrs. Hargrove finally began, her voice tremulous yet laced with urgency. "Marcus, the local historian, has spent years unraveling tales buried in the earth, stories that might connect to your uncle in ways we cannot yet fathom." Intrigue wrapped around Claire like the tendrils of ivy that clung to the old estate, pulling her deeper into the mystery that lay before her. "Can he truly help me?" Claire's words hovered in the charged air, laced with a mix of hope and skepticism. The thought of unearthing her uncle's past felt daunting, yet exhilarating. She envisioned Marcus, this enigmatic historian, his face etched with wisdom born from years of solitude spent among ancient texts and forgotten lore. The thought of relying on his expertise ignited a spark of determination within her. She could not turn back now. The need to understand the land and its stories was too great to ignore. Before Mrs. Hargrove could respond, Claire pressed on. "Where can I find him?" A rush of anticipation surged through her, a visceral thrill that coursed through her veins. The older woman hesitated, glancing out the window as if searching for some divine sign. "He often wanders the old ruins near the river," she said at last, her voice softer now, almost reverent. "There's something about those grounds that beckons him." Claire nodded, gratitude blooming in her chest. mingling with a heady concoction of exhilaration and dread. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the landscape, illuminating Claire's path as she exited the estate. Each step felt imbued with a purpose, the world around her pulsating with possibilities. Shadows lengthened, whispering secrets of the past, urging her closer to the truth. As she approached the river's edge, a sense of peace enveloped her, grounding her in the moment while she teetered on the brink of the unknown. Claire inhaled deeply, the cool air filled with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, a fragrant reminder of nature's resilience. Arriving at the ruins, Claire found herself captivated by the remnants of a world that once thrived. Time-worn stones whispered tales of love, loss, and resilience, their surfaces etched with the passage of centuries. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man with tousled hair, his presence magnetic. "Are you Claire?" he called, his voice perfectly attuned to the murmurs of twilight. The thrill of discovery coursed through her as they locked eyes, the weight of their shared purpose palpable. The journey into the heart of the land and its secrets had begun, and she felt destiny pulling her forward, one step closer to unearthing the truth. The man stepped closer, the shadows of the crumbling structure dancing around him. Claire studied his features, searching for a hint of familiarity, yet he remained an enigma. "I thought I'd find you here," he said, revealing a warmth beneath his initial intensity. Her pulse quickened at the realization that he had been searching, just as she had. Uncertainty mingled with excitement as she absorbed his presence, the way the fading light caught the angles of his face, igniting a spark of connection. He was not just a stranger. He was someone whose path intertwined with hers at this precise moment, and she felt the weight of possibility hanging in the air between them. "Why here?" Claire's voice barely rose above a whisper, but it carried her curiosity boldly into the ether. He tilted his head, the corners of his lips curving into a gentle smile that softened his magnetic demeanor. "This place holds the key to what we seek," he replied, gesturing to the ruins that loomed like silent guardians of the past. The way he spoke imbued the stones with life, and Claire's heart trembled with the promise of revelations hidden within their cracked facades. She yearned to understand, to dig deeper, but doubts flickered in her mind. Would she truly uncover the heart of the mysteries surrounding her? With a deep breath, Claire took a step forward, drawn nearly against her will toward the remnants of history. Her fingers brushed against the rough surface of a stone, feeling the cold, ancient texture beneath her skin. Memories flooded her consciousness, echoes of laughter and whispered secrets that seemed to seep from the very ground. Each step she took was a step away from her fears and closer to the truth. She sensed the man beside her mirror her sentiment, his energy, a quiet encouragement, urging her to dismantle the walls she had built around her heart. As they moved deeper into the ruins, Claire's mind raced with questions, each one a barrier separating her from the answers she craved. Was she ready to confront the ghosts of her past, to face the pain that had tethered her for too long? The man paused, as if sensing her internal struggle, and turned to meet her gaze with an intensity that stole her breath. "You don't have to go through this alone," he offered, extending a hand toward her. In that moment, Claire felt an undeniable pull, a thread connecting them, weaving her fears into the fabric of newfound hope. Clutching his hand, she stepped off the precipice of uncertainty, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The moment felt transformative, as though the very air around them shifted, charged with potential. Together they ventured further into the heart of the ruins, the stones whispering secrets that promised to shatter the barriers of Claire's past. Every heartbeat echoed with the rhythm of discovery, as if the world conspired to align their fates. With each step, the weight of their shared journey unraveled, allowing the light of understanding to seep through the cracks of her guarded soul. The rusting fence loomed before them, a labyrinth of intertwined metal and ivy, remnants of a forgotten era. Claire's fingers tingled as she traced the jagged edges, each sharp corner a reminder of her own unresolved struggles. She hesitated, the weight of the past pressing down like a heavy mist, but Marcus's unwavering gaze anchored her. His encouragement wrapped around her heart, urging her to confront the unknown. Breathing deeply, she leaned into the moment, her fear beginning to ebb into something more potent, curiosity. With a careful determination, she grabbed hold of an old twisted beam, and began to pry it loose. As the first piece of the fence groaned in protest and yielded to her strength, a rush of exhilaration surged through her veins. The sound echoed in the stillness, like a drumbeat signaling her metamorphosis. Each crack of rusted metal sent a tremor through her, a reminder that breaking down barriers, both physical and emotional, required courage. She glanced at Marcus, his expression a blend of admiration and respect, fueling her resolve. The thrill of discovery was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the chains of her past that had often kept her restrained. She pushed harder, emboldened by the promise of what lay beyond. With every forceful shove, the fence began to yield, unveiling glimpses of a world shrouded in mystery. Sunlight filtered through the gaps, illuminating patches of wildflowers that clung to life amidst the decay. Their vibrant hues painted a stark contrast against the dull metal, whispering tales of resilience and hope. Claire's heart quickened as she imagined the stories this place held, echoes of laughter, warmth, and connection that felt tantalizingly close, yet just out of reach. She paused for a moment, allowing herself to savor the intoxicating scent of possibilities, and then she resumed her efforts, driven by the vision of what lay just beyond her reach. With a final determined heave, a significant section of the fence came crashing down, revealing a hidden garden, its beauty stark in its neglect. Vines cascaded over ancient stones, and remnants of what seemed to be a once grand gazebo peeked through the undergrowth. Claire's breath caught in her throat, a mix of awe and longing flooding over her. This secret sanctuary, untouched by time, felt like a reflection of the very journey she was on. The air buzzed with an energy that was simultaneously electrifying and calming, beckoning her to explore further. Yet, as the allure of the garden washed over her, a flicker of doubt whispered in the back of her mind. Marcus stepped beside her, a reassuring presence against her swirling thoughts. "What do you see?" he asked, his voice gentle, coaxing. Claire turned toward him, the warmth of their shared moment sparking a sense of kinship that filled the space between them. "I see a place waiting to be discovered," she finally replied, her voice trembling with the weight of her revelation. In that instant she realized that this moment, this broken fence and the secrets it guarded, symbolized a turning point. The path ahead was hers to shape, and with Marcus by her side, she felt ready to walk into a future unfettered by her past. The air was thick with the earthy scent of damp soil and wildflowers, a blend that wrapped around Claire like a warm embrace. Her gaze drifted through the tangled foliage, each leaf whispering secrets of a world long forgotten. Sunlight filtered through the branches, casting a mosaic of light and shadow on the ground, where vibrant blooms pushed their way through the cracks. With every breath, the garden seemed to extend its arms, inviting her into its depths. Yet that lingering doubt was a ghost at the edge of her consciousness, reminding her of the pain that had once driven her to the sidelines of life. Claire leaned closer to a cluster of lilacs, their soft petals inviting her touch. She marveled at how they thrived against the odds, much like her own spirit. It struck her then. This place was not just a garden, it was a mirror reflecting her journey. Tendrils of hope began to intertwine with her uncertainty, forming a fragile yet resilient thread that connected her to this new chapter. She could almost hear the heartbeat of the garden, a rhythm that resonated with her own desire for renewal. Yet, as she lingered in the moment, a question flickered through her mind. Would she find the strength to nurture what lay ahead? Marcus stepped closer, his presence anchoring her swirling thoughts. "What if we explore?" he suggested, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. The invitation hung in the air, a gentle nudge toward the unknown. Claire glanced at him, her heart quickening at the thought of venturing beyond the familiar boundaries of her fears. The garden was a wild expanse, but with Marcus beside her it felt less daunting, more like a shared adventure waiting to unfold. The prospect of what lay ahead sent ripples of excitement through her, igniting a spark she thought had long been extinguished. They began to walk, each step echoing with the promise of discovery. Claire felt the earth beneath her feet, solid and reassuring, a stark contrast to the tumult within. As they wandered deeper, the garden unveiled its hidden wonders. A rusted fountain, its surface shimmering with the reflection of sunlight, a stone bench draped in vines that appeared to beckon weary souls. Each discovery seemed to dissolve the remnants of her doubt, replacing them with a burgeoning sense of purpose. The world was no longer just a canvas of her past. It was an invitation to paint a future filled with color and vibrancy. In the heart of the garden, they stumbled upon a small, overgrown archway, its entrance shrouded by cascades of greenery. Claire paused, her breath hitching in her throat as anticipation tightened her chest. It felt like crossing a threshold into something sacred, a realm where the boundaries of her past could dissolve in the face of possibility. She caught Marcus's gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. Together, they stood at the brink of revelation, ready to step into the uncharted territory of their shared journey. The first glimpse was more than just an invitation. It was a declaration that they were no longer bound by yesterday's shadows. The air felt electric as Claire stepped through the archway, the dense foliage parting like a curtain to reveal the remnants of a forsaken world. Rusted metal structures loomed against the sky, their jagged silhouettes creating a stark contrast to the soft hues of the garden. Each step into the dilapidated military installation sent tremors of excitement through her veins, a thrill that mingled with the lingering scent of wildflowers. She marveled at how the environment had reclaimed what was once a fortress, weaving nature's vibrant tapestry over concrete and steel. The transformation mirrored her own journey, an evolution from confinement into the boundless realm of possibility. Marcus followed closely, his footsteps echoing against the hollow walls. Claire felt his presence beside her, a steady anchor amidst the crumbling ruins, and she glanced at him, catching the glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. He pointed towards a weathered sign, half buried in ivy, the words barely decipherable. "Look at this," he whispered, excitement threading through his voice. Claire leaned closer, brushing her fingers over the rough surface, and an overwhelming sense of history washed over her. This place, once a center of operation, now lay dormant, yet it pulsed with stories begging to be unearthed, and she felt a compelling urge to delve deeper. As they ventured further, Claire's heart raced with the thrill of discovery. Each corner they turned revealed artifacts of a bygone era. Abandoned vehicles lay tangled in brambles, their paint chipped and faded, while rusted barrels bore the scars of time. She ran her fingertips across the remnants, imagining the lives once lived within these stark walls. The thrill was intoxicating, igniting a sense of adventure within her that she had long thought extinguished. Every shadow held secrets, and Claire felt as though she were piecing together a puzzle of forgotten dreams, the fragments whispering of resilience and courage. A chill brushed past her, the air suddenly heavy with an inexplicable weight. Claire paused, a flicker of unease threading through her excitement. "Do you feel that?" she asked, turning to Marcus, who seemed to sense the shift as well. A moment of silence enveloped them, a shared realization that they were not merely explorers, but intruders in a space that once thrummed with purpose. The thrill of adventure was now tinged with a hint of trepidation, and Claire found herself torn between the allure of the unknown and the whispers of caution lingering in her mind. Shaking off the unease, Claire took a deep breath, inhaling the mingled scents of earth and metal. "Let's keep going," she urged, her voice steady and resolute. With renewed determination, they pressed onward, each step a testament to their burgeoning bond and shared bravery. The installation, with all its haunting charm, was a testament to transformation, a place where the past and future collided. As they moved deeper into the heart of the forgotten relic, Claire felt the walls around her heart soften, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, fueled by the promise of adventure and the intoxicating thrill of the unknown. With each cautious step, Claire felt the tension in the air thicken, her senses heightened. The faint echoes of their footfalls bounced off the steel walls, amplifying the sense of isolation that enveloped them. Graffiti marred the surfaces, remnants of lives left behind, stories untold. Curious, Claire traced her fingers along the crude, painted lines, each stroke a ghostly whisper of a different time. They were reminders of laughter, sorrow, and loss, thoughts she longed to understand. The interplay of shadows and light created a surreal atmosphere, making her heart race as anticipation mingled with uncertainty. In the dim glow of their flashlights, flickering bits of debris danced on the edges of her vision, each item a testament to the lives once lived here. A rusted bicycle lay abandoned, its tires deflated like forgotten dreams. Claire knelt beside it, feeling an inexplicable connection. What had compelled someone to leave it behind? Had they fled, or did they simply forget? A shiver trickled down her spine as she pondered the depth of abandonment. In those moments, a profound sense of empathy enveloped her, igniting a desire to uncover the mysteries hidden within these walls. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, wrapping around them like a shroud. Claire turned to Peter, who mirrored her unease with furrowed brows. "There's something unsettling about this place," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "It feels haunted." She nodded, her heart pounding in agreement. The echoes of their laughter felt distant, overshadowed by the weight of the installation's silence. Yet beneath the surface of fear, a flicker of exhilaration ignited within her, urging her to confront whatever lay ahead. The unknown held secrets, and she was determined to uncover them. Suddenly, a low groan reverberated through the structure, sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through Claire. She exchanged a startled glance with Peter, the thrill of danger igniting yet another layer of their bond. "Did you hear that?" he asked, eyes wide with intrigue and fear. Claire nodded, her own pulse racing with both excitement and dread. "We have to keep going." With newfound resolve, she led the way, each step a delicate balance between curiosity and caution. The sound had drawn them deeper into the heart of the installation, beckoning them toward its hidden truths. Claire's heart thudded as they entered a vast chamber, the ceiling soaring like a cathedral in decay. Shadows clung to the corners, yet a strange beauty enveloped the remnants of machinery strewn like fallen soldiers. Broken control panels and faded screens spoke of ambitions once grand, now reduced to silence. Claire couldn't help but feel the weight of history pressing down upon her. What dreams had flourished here only to be abandoned? The sensation was almost tangible, a call to remember, to honor the stories that lingered in the air. This was not just a relic. It was a vault of forgotten hopes, and she was determined to listen. Claire stepped further into the chamber, her fingers grazing the rough surface of a rusted console, the cold metal sending a shiver up her spine. Fragments of paper lay scattered across the floor like fallen leaves, their edges yellowed with age. Bending down, she carefully examined one sheet, the faded letters spelling out cryptic phrases that hinted at something monumental: Project Arcadia, subterranean facility, and last known coordinates. With each word, a surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins, illuminating the shadows of the past. These documents were breadcrumbs, leading her deeper into a narrative that demanded to be unveiled. The air grew thick with anticipation as she gathered the papers, each revelation igniting an insatiable thirst for understanding. Claire could almost hear the whispers of those who once toiled here, their ambitions echoing against the cold concrete walls. What had the purpose of this installation been? The questions danced in her mind, fueling her resolve. She glanced at the thick steel door at the far end, partially ajar, emitting a sliver of light that beckoned her forward. Striding towards it, she felt the collective breath of history entwining with her own, a yearning to discover the secrets hidden beneath layers of time. Pushing the door wider, Claire was met with a narrow corridor, its walls lined with faded photographs and maps, remnants of a world that once thrived beyond the surface. The images depicted a bustling facility, scientists in white coats, technicians hunched over intricate blueprints, and a vibrant community full of promise. Each snapshot faded into the next, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence surrounding her. She moved along the hallway, her fingers tracing the outlines of the maps, her heart racing with a thrill that mingled with trepidation. What had they been building, and what had ultimately driven them to abandon it all? As she continued down the corridor, Claire stumbled upon a locked metal door, its surface marred by time and neglect. The sight of it sent a wave of frustration through her, yet the urge to uncover the truth was too powerful to resist. She pulled at the handle, testing its strength, and felt it give slightly. The sound of scraping metal echoed, breaking the stillness and sending her heart into a frantic rhythm. What lay beyond that door? Secrets wrapped in shadows awaited her, and she could feel their weight pressing against her chest, inviting her to take the risk, to open the portal to a past that pulsed with life and mystery. With a deep breath, Claire steadied herself, squaring her shoulders against the disquieting anticipation. She prepared to push the door forward, her resolve crystallizing with the weight of every unanswered question. She had come too far to turn back now. The promise of discovery lay just beyond that threshold. As the door creaked open, a gust of stale air greeted her, as if the bunker itself sighed in recognition. Claire stepped inside, leaving behind the echoes of history and stepping into the unknown, driven by an unyielding desire to uncover the truth that lay buried in darkness. The dim light within the bunker revealed walls lined with peeling paint, their surface etched with whispers of the past. Claire's heart raced, each thump echoing in her ears as she scanned the room, searching for signs of significance amid the debris. Dust motes danced in the air, illuminated by the faint beam of her flashlight, creating a surreal atmosphere that felt both haunting and intimate. Memories clung to the corners like shadows, fragments of laughter, arguments, moments of despair. Maybe not her memories, but those of lives once lived here, entangled in the very essence of this hidden world. As she ventured deeper, the cold concrete floor sent a shiver up her spine, amplifying the thrill of discovery. Claire's footfalls were muffled, swallowed by the oppressive silence around her. She moved instinctively toward a rusted filing cabinet in the far corner, its drawers beckoning like the siren song of secrets. With a gentle tug, one of the drawers screeched open, revealing a motley collection of dusty folders, their labels faded and cryptic. The atmosphere thickened, and she felt the unmistakable charge of potential revelation, a mix of dread and exhilaration swirling within her. Claire's fingers trembled as she sifted through the papers, each one a testament to a life meticulously documented, yet now forgotten. Her breath hitched when she stumbled upon a photograph, sepia-toned and frayed at the edges. It showed a group of people, smiling faces that seemed to radiate warmth despite the bleakness surrounding them. A sense of longing washed over her. These strangers were entangled in a narrative she was desperate to uncover. Who were they? What had they hidden here? And why had it been sealed away from the world? With renewed determination, Claire tucked the photograph into her pocket, an anchor for her journey. She turned her attention to the remaining folders, skimming through them as though they held the keys to a locked door in her mind. Encounters, incidents, a series of events that painted a broader picture began to emerge, forming connections that sparked her intuition. Each word she read seemed to pulse with life, beckoning her to piece together the story that lay buried beneath layers of time and dust. The weight of the past pressed against her, urging her to bridge the gap between memory and understanding. Just as she felt the threads of understanding tightening around her, a low rumble reverberated through the bunker, shaking the very ground beneath her feet. Panic flared within her, a flicker of fear mingled with excitement. Was this a sign of danger, or was the bunker revealing its secrets, urging her deeper into the heart of its mystery? Claire's pulse quickened, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't retreat now. The truth was just within her reach, shrouded in shadows yet illuminated by her relentless courage. With trepidation, Claire pressed further into the dimly lit passageway, the echoes of her heartbeats matching the tremor beneath her feet. Shadows danced against the walls, elongating and contracting like the secrets they concealed. She brushed her fingers against the cold cement, her mind racing with possibilities. Every inch of this place seemed alive, whispering tales of its former occupants. The air grew heavier with anticipation, urging her to unveil what had long been hidden. She inhaled deeply, each breath igniting her determination. What lay beyond that next turn could either unravel her understanding or solidify her resolve. As she rounded the corner, a faint glimmer caught her eye. It was subtle, just a flicker in the darkness, yet it beckoned her like a lighthouse amidst a storm. Claire's instincts kicked in. There had to be something significant behind it. She knelt, brushing away layers of dust that had settled like a protective shroud over the ground. Beneath her fingers, the outline of a hatch emerged, rusted yet sturdy, a testament to the decades of neglect. Excitement surged through her veins, pulsating with the promise of discovery. This was no mere rubble. This could be the key to unlocking untold stories. With a deep breath and a surge of adrenaline, Claire began prying at the edges of the hatch. The hinges groaned in protest, a sound reminiscent of the past straining against its confinement. Her muscles burned with effort, Yet the weight of the hatch felt lighter with each inch she managed to lift. Finally, with a final push, it swung open, revealing a steep staircase spiraling down into a world untouched by time. The darkness below seemed to inhale, inviting her in, and she felt an electric thrill at the thought of what lay in wait. Descending cautiously, she could barely make out the outlines of crates and machinery against the dim glow of her flashlight. As her beam danced across the room, the shapes began to take form. Boxes marked with military insignia, equipment that looked state-of-the-art, and supplies that could sustain an army. The magnitude of what she had found sent a shiver down her spine. Each item was a piece of a puzzle, a fragment of history that could reshape everything they had believed. Claire's breath caught in her throat, her mind racing with the implications of this treasure trove. Suddenly, the weight of her discovery transformed into a torrent of questions. What had happened here? Why had this bounty been concealed, hidden away from the world? The thrill of the find was mingled with unease. Claire realized that this could pose a danger far greater than the secrets she had uncovered in the archives above. She felt a compelling need to decipher the stories behind each item, to understand the heart of the bunker. With renewed urgency, she prepared to explore deeper, knowing that the truth, whatever it may be, was now within her grasp, waiting for her to breathe life into its long-forgotten echoes. Claire stepped deeper into the dimly lit expanse of the bunker, her heart pounding with each cautious footfall. Shadows danced along the walls, stretching out like fingers reaching for her, reminding her that she was not alone in this forgotten place. Dust motes hung in the air, capturing the faint glimmer of her flashlight as she scanned the surroundings, searching for clues in the artifacts strewn before her. A rusted helmet caught her eye, its history etched into the metal, whispering tales of valor and loss. She felt a shiver at the thought of those who once wore it, their lives anchored to a past she was now desperate to uncover. Every step felt like crossing into a threshold of forgotten memories. Claire's thoughts spiraled. What if the secrets concealed here were not merely remnants of the past, but warnings for the present? She reached out and brushed her fingers over the rough surface of an old map pinned to the wall. It depicted landscapes that had long since transformed, names of towns that echoed from a time when hope and despair walked hand in hand. The weight of such knowledge pressed heavily on her chest, mingling dread and exhilaration. Each item revealed hinted at a narrative much larger than her own, a tapestry woven with threads of human experience that she longed to unravel. Suddenly, a soft sound cut through the stillness, sending a jolt of adrenaline shooting through her veins. Claire froze, her breath hitching as she turned toward the source. Had she imagined it? The shadows felt heavier now, more oppressive. She strained her ears, each beat of her heart pounding in rhythm with the quiet that enveloped her. The bunker, with its air thickened by dust and memory, felt alive, as though it were holding its breath alongside her. If someone else was here, she needed to find them, or at the very least, understand what, or who, was intruding upon this sanctum. She took a cautious breath, mustering her resolve. The warmth of curiosity began to outweigh her fear as she advanced, thoughts racing. If there was someone else in the bunker, perhaps they held answers to the questions that gnawed at her. Claire pushed aside the trepidation thrumming in her veins and crept toward the sound, her eyes darting back to the map for one last glance, as if it would guide her through uncharted territory. The shadows seemed to shift, almost teasing her, coaxing her to delve deeper into the unknown. Just then, an unexpected figure stepped into the beam of her flashlight, and Claire's heart dropped. The intruder, a silhouette framed by the cold concrete, was as startled as she was. She squinted against the brightness, her mind racing through a whirlwind of possibilities. Rather than the confrontation she had anticipated, the moment hung in a fragile silence. In that instant, the air thickened with tension and uncertainty, and Claire realized that her quest for truth had just taken an unforeseen turn. This encounter carried the weight of fate. What would it reveal about the mysteries that awaited them both? Amidst the rust and decay of the forgotten fence, Claire stood at the threshold of something extraordinary. The military bunker, a labyrinth of shadows and whispers, was adorned with the echoes of lives once lived, secrets buried beneath decades of dust. It had been a journey marked by uncertainty, but with each revelation, Claire unearthed not just artifacts of the past, but fragments of her own spirit. each puzzle piece steering her closer to understanding herself and her family's legacy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the land, she felt an undeniable sense of belonging. This place, once a mere inheritance, had transformed into a sanctuary of truth and resilience. The secrets it held were no longer chains of despair, but threads weaving her story into the rich tapestry of history. In that moment, Claire grasped the profound realization that home is not defined by four walls, but by the courage to confront what lies hidden. With hope igniting her heart, she turned her back on the past's shadows, ready to embrace the light of possibilities ahead. Life had taught her that beneath every layer of rust and ruin, there could be a treasure waiting to be discovered, a truth longing to be set free. What an incredible story, right? Imagine stumbling upon a hidden treasure like that. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think she'll keep it? If you enjoyed this adventure, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Join our journey.